In this tutorial, I'll be covering creating and manipulating standard primitives, extruding, target welding, mirror or copying, and scaling. Let's get started. Let's go over to standard primitives, first tab to your right, and we're going to select the box primitive. And for this example, I'm going to start from the top view, so over here to the top left, and I'm going to create what is going to be considered the tabletop of a table, and we're going to create a table and some chairs. So first we're going to give a segment, a length segment, and I'm sorry, not a height, but a width. So our length and width segments of 3 and 3. Because what we're going to do is we're going to manipulate the vertices and move or shrink or scale the corners so that we can extrude some slimmer or thinner legs from this tabletop. So now that we've created our segments, and now let's go ahead and just give ourselves a scale or a scaled sized tabletop here. So we're going to do a 64 by 64 by 64. Oh, sorry, not 64 by 64. I'm going to do a 8 in height, but we'll stick with 64. Yeah, let's do 64 by 64 by 8 height. Now we're going to go over to our second tab, the Modify tab. We're going to, from the modifier list, we're going to select Edit Poly. It's always good to work in layers when you want to manipulate. You may have to go back and change a few things, but in this case, we should not have to. If I perform everything like the first time. So let's go ahead. Once we select Edit Poly, I'm going to go over and either with my quick key, which is the number pad, I'm going to select 1 for the vertex tool, or I could have just selected this as well. We've got edge and we've got border and polygon and element, but we're going to use, for this example, we're going to use vertex and we're going to use polygon or faces. So let's go ahead, and I am going to actually, from the top view here, I'm going to select, marquee select the second and third vertical row here, and I'm going to actually select my R key, my quick key R, or in this case the scale, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull, and I did not mean to use our squash, actually that should be, oops, and let's go ahead and we're going to do a non-uniform scale. Oh, actually, well, we could do a uniform scale, but let's try non-uniform scale, and we'll just pull these verts apart. And the great thing about doing it this way is that we are uniformly scaling, or actually just pulling these verts away from each other. And then we're going to do the same thing on the horizontal, and I'm just eyeballing this, by the way. You could use a better system with the grid and what have you, but in this case, not that big of a deal. I'm going to go ahead back to our select and move tool, or the W key for our quick key, and in our perspective view, I'm actually going to hold down the Alt and middle mouse button, and I'm going to move to the bottom of this table top, and we're going to extrude the legs now. So now I'm going to select the number 4 key, or in this case you can just click on the polygon key selection, and I'm going to control click the 4 corners. As you can see, now we have some more realistic table legs here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down the properties list here, while of course you have polygon selected. And I'm going to select my extrude settings key. And let's go ahead and extrude this. Let's do something like, we'll make this table 48 in height or length, legs. And yeah, that's fine. And we're going to say thank you, or checking the box to confirm. And actually, now we're going to get out of, and I'm going to go back over here to my properties, scroll up, we're going to deselect polygon, and I'm actually going to move my table up and actually just sit it above at 0. And actually what we could do, and I'll just add one other thing we'll go over here, is that let's manipulate the hierarchy or the pivot of the table. So let's go ahead and say, let's affect pivot only. And I'm just going to move my pivot point to the bottom corner of one of my legs of my table. I'm just zooming in here with my middle mouse button, by the way. And I'm trying to zoom in as much as I can and adjust this pivot point. And I'm just clicking and dragging, of course. Zoom in some more, make sure we are on point. And as you can see, not quite yet. I'm scrolling my middle mouse button, and then I am actually holding down. I apologize. Oops. Let's zoom extents. I lost where I was. Let's zoom extents. And actually, I tapped the wrong key. I tapped the T by mistake. But let's go back to, and I'm with the graphic, I'm sorry. So let's go back to top frame here. Let me zoom back in. So all I'm doing is holding down the middle mouse button and zooming in. I apologize. So let's go ahead and get as close as we can. We want to make sure we are actually at the corner. And the closer you get to the object, the clearer it becomes that you are not as on point as you would think. So now that I've got that as close as I can eyeballing, I'm going to deselect the effect pivot only. And now hit zoom extents, top right icon down here at the bottom. Now what I can do is I can actually right click my select and move tool, and I can zero out just, and actually let's see, actually we should be able to do 0 and then 0 and then 0, and that puts us right at the, of course, 0, 0, 0 coordinates. So now just to give you an understanding of how easy it'll be to manipulate our objects. Now, with your pivots will be actually important also when importing them into a game engine, because you can rotate, especially when it comes to, let's say, a door or something that has, you're working with a hinge opening style door. So in any event, let's go back, let's continue. So we've got our table here. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a chair based on this table. So I'm going to actually shift and drag this table, and the clone option will come up, and we actually want to make a copy of this, and I'm going to name this chair, say okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this down, and actually what I'll do, and let's go ahead and hold down uniform scale here. And actually, once I select uniform scale here, I'm going to go down here to the bottom here, and as you can see, there's some coordinates here, and it's showing a 100%. I'm going to take this chair down to about 40%. 40%, maybe not. 55, I'm sorry. Let's go about 55. And let's go back to our W quick key here. And then what I'm going to do is just line this up with the table. Now, let's go ahead and work on this chair. So let's right-click, select our table, right-click, and we're going to hide this for now. So now let's zoom in. Sorry, let's zoom extents in on our chair here. Right now we've just got the legs, but we're going to make the back of this chair, and we're actually going to make some arm rests as well. So let's go ahead and select that, and we're going to go back to our modify key, tab and go to polygon. We're going to select, let's select the back end of our chair because we're going to bring up the backrest of our chair first. And actually, let me maximize this so you can see what I'm doing. And so let's go ahead and scroll down, and we're going to do an extrude, but we're not going to extrude all the way up. We're going to extrude in sections so that we can do some extruding forward as well for our arm rest, and you'll see what I'm doing in a second. So let's go ahead and extrude up. Now this is 48, but we're going to actually do 8. Actually, yeah, 8's good, and then actually we'll say plus, and then we'll deselect the two. Oops, let's go back. We'll deselect. We're going to say okay to that. We're going to just select our middle piece here, and so we've done 16. We'll go ahead and come up another, I guess we'll come up another 16. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, no, let's do 24. And we'll say okay. Thank you. And now what we're going to do is we're going to select these two pieces here, and we're going to extrude forward to make our armrest. So let's go ahead and do that now. We're going to extrude forward, and let's do, I think we want to do something like 40. Maybe not. Let's do 50. 50 is about right. And then what we're going to do is say add another section there, and this is not, we're not going to do 5, we're going to do something like 4 or 6, something like that, or 8. Let's see what 8 does. Oops, I deleted. I apologize. We need to go back to extrude. Sorry. So let's go ahead and do 8, and it should be about 8. Now we have extruded a little further. So for that example, I'm going to show you why that is important or not important to when you want to do welding and such. So I'm going to leave this a little further out just so that you can see what happens when we target weld. So now what I'm going to do is now we're going to actually select the faces underneath the armrest, and we're going to extrude down. So let's go ahead and do that, but except we're going to do 4, so we have a little space, and say okay to that, or hit the check box rather. And then what we're going to do is, while we have these two faces selected, and we're going to select the two faces on the seat itself, and we're going to delete because we're actually going to target weld the 4 vertices to the bottom 4 verts of the seat on both ends. So let's zoom in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to select my vertex selection here, and as you can see, it holds in memory what we were doing previously with the vertices. So I'm going to select out in the world to deselect all of my verts, and now what I'm going to do is scroll down my properties list, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a target weld. So we're going to select target weld, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the back. So with the first vert selected, you can drag and see that there's a dotted line that comes from the first vert, and we will go, and once you see the crosshairs to the destination vert, you can select that vert and it will weld that vert. We will go ahead and do the second vert, the third, and the fourth here. Now, because we started from the top, the vert converts to its parent or final destination. If I was to, the same thing would happen if I was to move this back, move this section back, it would conform in the opposite direction. So let's continue with the other arm, and let's go ahead and select this back corner, rotate around. I'm holding down the Alt and middle mouse button to rotate around, and we are done. Now we can deselect our target weld tool, and now we have an interesting IKEA style chair here, if you will. We can always manipulate, of course, this to make it different, look different. Let's scroll up our properties, up to the top of our properties, and I can actually from the side, let's get out of our maximize view, and from the side, or in this case the front view, I could always marquee around the first few verts on this, and I can actually slide this back, and then we'd have a totally different looking chair. And actually I could also select and marquee the top of my armrest and move it down to slim it, or move it up here and grab the second row and move that up actually. And now we have some manipulation that has occurred here. Now we can deselect our vertices selection here, and let's go ahead, let's maximize. I'm going to zoom out. Let's right click in the world, and we're going to unhide all because we only hid one selection, which is our table. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to work smart, not hard. We're actually going to just, of course, we're going to copy this chair for the sake of the scene and put 4 chairs at our table. So let's go get out of zoom, and we're going to zoom extensive. We're going to zoom out from the top view, and what I'm going to do is I am going to first show you that we can go up here to the top here to our top menu bar, and we can select mirror. And what we can do is select mirror, and it will actually give us an option to do a copy. As you can see right now, there's no cloning happening, but it actually flipped our chair on the x-axis. And what that's going to do is once we select copy, it will make another copy of the chair and actually flip it on based on the mirrored axis that we have selected. We can select Y, we can select Z, we can select XY, and let me make sure we can see what's going on here. Let's go back. And actually, I'm going to cancel this so we can go back to the, we'll go back to our perspective view. And what I'll do is, just for the sake of this first example, I'm going to mirror. And what we can do is, as you can see, X, Y, we'll do hit copy. Y here, we hit Z, and actually X, Y, and Z. And actually, let's cancel that. We want to be able to see each one. So let's go to ZX and let's show you what's happened. See, now it flips it, of course, on Z and X. If I do a copy, as you can see, it copies the original, and we kept the original, and it copied a new instance, and it flipped it based on the mirrored axis. But we want to do X, and so let's go back just for, and we didn't have to do that. We could have kept that selection, and it would have copied it just fine. But just for the sake of the example, I'm going to show you visually. So we're going to do a copy, and we're going to say OK, and what I'm going to do is just drag, click and drag on the marquee tool on the x-axis and bring that chair right here to the other side of the table. I'm going to move this chair up. Now for the final copy, I'm actually going to, let's get out of zoom, and we're going to go to our top view, and let's zoom in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to control click both chairs. I'm actually going to go up to my percent toggle and angle snap toggle. I'm going to right click on the 100% snap toggle, and I'm going to change my angle from 5% to 90, or 90 degrees, or 5 degrees to 90 degrees. And then what I'm going to do is close this window. I'm going to select E for rotate. I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to rotate and copy these chairs, say OK, and now I have a copy of all of my chairs in place. Let's get out of zoom extents here. Let's zoom extents rather, and see all our entire set of chairs and table. And that is our example of copying or creating, manipulating, extruding, target welding, mirroring, copying, scaling, and mirroring, or in this case, I'm sorry, no, that is our example of creating, manipulating, extruding, target welding, mirror or copying, scaling, hiding and unhiding of standard primitives. Thank you for watching.